What book fucked you up mentally? Go ask Alice. I read it when I was 12. It was the first time I had read a book like this, and it shook me to my core at the end. Sharp objects. It was the inception of mind fucks for me. A scanner darkly. Cat in the Hat. I was molested when I was 7 and I knew what happened. So whenever the cat said, "Your mother want mind," flashbacks back to when I was 7. The Hot Zone. Just made me paranoid I'd catch Ebola. And then there were none. Fantastically plotted. Some great characterization. A truly awful sense of dread. The best mystery novel ever for a reason. Johnny Got His Gun. Edit. Thank you very, very much, strangers, for the silver and platinum. Very undeserved, but I appreciate it greatly. This was the first book one ever read front to back, and it was shell-shocking. Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. Nothing I've read has ever struck me with more terror than the thought of slipping through the cracks in the larger cities in the world. I hate to set foot in London for this fear, which will definitely make tomorrow fun, as I have to spend the entire day there. When I first read Animal Farm in my early teens, I was at the age where I could recognize the parallels with real life, and it fucked me up for a long while. Clockwork Orange. I am not even sure I finished it. The Giving Tree. That kid was so ungrateful, and the tree gave him everything it had. Schindler's List. As if the book wasn't enough, our teacher made us watch the movie. Not to mention, as someone who kicks theirself for forgetting something that seems completely obvious after the fact, reading how he recalls name after name that he couldn't remember to put on that list until said list was sent, killed me. Of Mice and Men. I really think Unwind by Neil Shusterman is interesting. There is a chapter in which you are put into the perspectives of the minor antagonist as he slowly gets torn limb by limb and organ by doctors. All of his organs get taken out one by one, in non-descriptive detail, until there is nothing left of him as here. It didn't really fuck me up mentally, but I thought it was fucked up. Additional note: it even gets more fucked up when you remember that the person who is getting torn limb from limb, harvested for organs, is legally a child. Flowers for Algernon. At first it wrenched at my heart with pathos for Charlie's struggles in life in a way that assures my choice of working in mental health. But then, it starts to accelerate in subtle, almost imperceptible ways, with an improved spelling of this word, that word, punctuation previously unseen. His rise in intellect matched only by its foreshadowed meteoric fall. My reaction when he re-enters Alice's classroom was the same tear-jerked caliber that hers was at seeing him again. I highly recommend it. The final Dark Tower book. Seriously, when it warns you about not reading further, listen. American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Much more horrifying than the movie. We need to talk about Kevin. It's the same plot as the movie, just written through letters from the wife to the husbands, and oh boy was that intense. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Lord of the Flies. Decided to read The Shining. Ended up getting snowed in with my family on our farm halfway through the book and finished it before we could get out. In retrospect, I should have read it during the summer. Scary Stories to Read in the Dark. Watership Down by Richard Adams. A bloody story about rabbits. Who knew? Where the Red Fern Grows. Being forced to read that sent grade school me through a roller coaster of emotions. Edit. I really appreciate all the upvotes and people sharing their stories, experiences with this book. I figure I'll share mine. I was a bookworm between 5th and 6th grade and was really enjoying the book, so I decided to read ahead and finish the book. Needless to say, 11-year-old me crawled in bed, cried like a baby. Then after the whole class finished the book, we went on to watch the movie in class. It resulted in a room full of kids sobbing. I can only assume this is why I have more sympathy towards animals than I do people. This book definitely left an impact on many of us. Perfume. The Long Walk by Stephen King. I wouldn't say fucked me up, but after reading The Curious Case of the Dog in the Night Time, it really made me a more understanding and open-minded person. I would say fucked me up in the sense it permanently made me realize that mental illness or no, everyone's brain works differently, and people may have underlying trauma or reason why they do the things they do. The Giver. I freaking hate that book. Messed me up when I had to read it in middle school. I still shudder at the thought. Edit. Spelling lol. The Yellow Wallpaper fucked me up for quite a while. Misery by Stephen King. That book slowly breaks you as you keep hoping that the protagonist survives the horrors he faces. A Child Called It by Dave Pelzer. It's an autobiography about the child abuse Pelzer suffered through as a young child. He goes into detail about wounds, the abuse. He has a few books about it. It's probably one of the worst cases of child abuse I've ever read about. Fucked me up reading it as a young kid. Memnic the Devil. Before that I had never thought of a version of God that was good and powerful but imperfect. The Color Out of Space by Lovecraft made me really uncomfortable. A Child Called It. Quote, It, by Stephen King. I read the first chapter when I was about 8 and literally spent the next 2 weeks shivering in my bed every night until I got up the courage to talk to Dad, who went and spoiled the ending to reassure me. Night Shift by Stephen King. A collection of short horror stories. I was around 10 when I started really getting into reading, and my dad had a lot of Stephen King on the shelf, so I naturally started reading his stuff. I remember many nights staying up far too late after reading, just waiting to hear "So Nice" come from my closet. Some of those stories genuinely fucked up my young mind. Catch-22. It starts out light and fun, but at the end it's dark and completely messed me up. I read Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar when I was in 7th grade for accelerated reader points, and I haven't been the same person since. The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. It tells the story of American soldiers in Vietnam during the war, along with explaining what mental and physical things that each held. What screwed me up mentally was that you couldn't trust the author. You didn't know whether he was telling the truth or making the story up. Edit. Thank you for all the upvotes and the awards. Single quote closing parenthesis. Night by Elie Wiesel. There is nothing more unsettling than reading the inner thoughts of a Holocaust survivor. Edit. Thank you guys for sharing your personal experiences and stories. I've read practically all of them, and even attempted to comment on as many of them as I could. You're some truly amazing people. The Book Thief. The Giver. Pet Sematary. The minute I knew Gage was going to die, I started feeling gross about reading the book. I know it is as good, as in disturbingly good, as any of King's novels, but for some reason I just couldn't bring myself to read beyond the funeral scene because I knew what was coming. Bridge to Terabithia. I also had a very visceral reaction to Tuck Everlasting. I read all this shit about tech bros trying to crack the code to extend human life indefinitely, and I am like, why? Exclamation mark. Question mark. A Little Life by Hania Yanagihara. Very depressing and took me a long time to get through. I remember crying so hard near the end. No book has ever made me feel such emotion before. The Lovely Bones and Lolita, both books I had to read for a course. I'll never reread them. Truly disturbing. To Kill a Mockingbird. Except it wasn't so much the book itself as the additional reading I had to do for it. I had to write a paper about the juxtaposition between the book itself and the Scottsboro Boys' trials. Reading about those really messed me up for a while. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky really puts you in the mind of a twisted dude and shows a lot of other twisted people doing bad things. Among others, pedophile, child prostitution so a family can eat. Tuesdays with Morrie gave me an existential crisis in 8th grade. I Have No Mouth, and I Must Scream gave me nightmares. The Long Walk by Stephen King. It's about a group of 100 teenage boys partaking in an annual program called The Long Walk, in which they walk cross-country at a minimum speed of 4 miles per hour. There's a set of rules, and if they get 3 strikes, they're out of the walk, meaning they get gunned. Everyone will keep waking until there's a winner. The book's about 400 pages long, but it's very interesting despite just being about walking. It's more of a psychological horror than most of King's books. And it messed me the fuck up when I finished it. Like goddamn. I might just be weak-minded. But fuck, it's a great read. Would recommend. Quote, House of Leaves was really unsettling. Edgar Allan Poe's Cask of Amontillado. The Plague from A. Camus. Edit. Thank you for Golden Kind Stranger. The Stranger is also really good, and so is Sisypho. I personally understood absurdism in authors' thoughts the best in The Plague, and it was a mind fuck in every sense of the he word. Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. Saving this whole thread. Probably passing on the JavaScript one. I hear the plot is thin. Flowers for Algernon. The first book one had a big emotional reaction to. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley blew my young mind away and really made me think about how society is organized. Mark Twain's autobiography, where he said, quote, But who prays for Satan, who in 18 centuries has had the common humanity to pray for the one sinner that needed it most. Quote, It changed the way 14YO saw theology forever. 1984. Flowers in the Attic. Not a book but a short story. Quote, The Lottery. Jurassic Park scared the crap out of 13-year-old me. Way more graphic than the movie. I still think about The Girl on the Milk Carton, which we listened to as a book on tape when I was a kid back in the 90s. Thanks for watching another video. Hit that like button down below. What did you think? Leave a comment. Subscribe for more epic content. And don't forget to press the bell so you never miss an upload. I'll see you next time.